Hello everyone, welcome back to Ayumilove channel for another Awaken Chaos Era content. In today's video, I'll be going over the patch notes that were released today, which is on the 18th of May 2022. However, this implementation of the patch will be live tomorrow, which is on the 19th. So in this video, I'll be going over the hero adjustment that they have done, which are this one. There are two types of adjustment they have done. One is the minor buff and one is a completely rework of their skills. So I'll be going through each of these legendary and epic heroes. You can find more of this information on my website at ayumilove.net by going over this Awaken Chaos Era and then going to the patch notes in this sidebar link here. Alright, so let's dive right into it. So for the first hero adjustment, it will be Barbarif. He's a legendary fire hero from the Soul Plunders. So the first adjustment that they've done is through his trait Demon Rebirth, which adds 1 stack of ability immune for 1 turn when resurrected. So if we were to look at his current trait, he currently revives this character upon death and heals them for 50% without ascension or 80% after ascension, and resets the cooldown of all active abilities. By having this ability immune, once he is revived based on his Demon Rebirth trait, he won't be able to be killed easily by the enemy attacks, so he has some opportunity to retaliate the enemy, which is quite a good thing to boost his survivability. And the next update is his skill Ambush, which increases his damage output from 100% to 120%, and it also removes the 30% chance to apply the stun for 1 turn and replaces it with the reduce the cooldown of the ultimate ability by 1 turn. So usually attacker heroes such as Barbarif, most players will just primarily focus on just building high amount of attack, critical rate and critical damage stats instead of having focus just to apply this stun debuff through his basic attack, which means this will make his skill much more better compared to having this 30% chance. And this one is not so useful against high resistance support heroes on the enemy team. So having this to reduce the cooldown ultimate ability is a good alternative method in case his vanquish ultimate ability isn't able to finish off the enemy, especially if he uses this against a strong element affinity such as a water element, or if the wood or used against a neutral affinity such as the fire, where their fire support heroes are quite tanky and unable to be killed by this ultimate ability, which is a good minor buff. Alright, so let's move on to the next hero, Lydia. So currently for Lydia, right, they have increased the basic speed of this hero. So currently her speed is 105, and once she is buffed up, it could probably increase her speed up to maybe 115 or more. They also update her Phantom trait, which now reduces the damage taken from 30% over an area attack over an area, which means she has like additional protection against AoE attackers such as like Evera, Valeria, Hydresia, Ciara, and Bulin. Which reminds me about Lightwing Zachary, because Lightwing Zachary has some sort of damage reduction passive ability on his trait, but this one reduces the damage from critical damage. For Lydia's one is for AoE damage, which makes her quite vulnerable against single target attack. So how do the Ace developers manage this issue is that they change her assassinate skill. Instead of applying accuracy down for 1 turn, they change it to apply increased dodge on herself for 1 turn, which synergizes well with her revenge passive ability, because if she managed to dodge it, she'll be able to counter attack and deal 200% damage. And when this ability lands a critical strike, it ignores 50% of the enemy's defense. Currently, right, Lydia's damage output on her basic attack deals very little damage even though you build her with high armor attack. So having the revenge to do damage will be much more better. However, currently there's an issue with Lydia where if she receives AoE attack from the enemy, if she manages to dodge it right, she won't be using this ability to counter attack. There's currently a bug with it where I tested Lydia in arena defense, where it isn't able to perform the counter attack, especially against like Trace Uzak, multiple attacks from his AoE attack there. So I would consider this as maybe like between a major to minor buff. But this side is to make her much more useful, to improve her dodging, to deal more damage, because her assassinate deals very little damage here. So both Barbarif and Lydia, consider them as a minor buff here. The third legendary hero that the developers buff will be Tia. So let's say, so this is Tia. Currently they buffed her trait. Now Frostbite will be unremovable. Tia will deal extra damage based on the stacks of Frostbite. If the target has Frostbite 1, Tia will deal 10% damage per stack, and Frostbite 2 will deal 15% more damage per stack. So if you were to look at Tia skills, she will be able to apply up to 5 stacks. For Frostbite 1 or Frostbite 2 is 4 stacks. So if you were to calculate the total amount of damage dealt, if it's 15% times 4, it will be 60% more damage dealt by Tia. For the Frostbite 1, which is before her ascension, it will be around about 50%. So 50% more damage for Frostbite 1 and 60% more damage for Frostbite 2. Which is okay, but the thing is only Tia will be able to deal extra damage rather than her allies. So if we were trying to build a attacker synergize team, then probably Tia will not be too helpful to boost up your overall damage, your overall team damage output. And I wonder whether this Frostbite applies to the boss. I think it applies to the boss because most people are using Tia in Wish of the Wind to apply the Frostbite to slow down the boss. Probably this will be a better case for Wish of the Wind because usually the Frostbite will be removed once the cooldown, once the debuff duration expires, which is a good thing. So this one I will consider it as a minor buff because it only allows Tia to deal extra damage rather than her allies and herself. So this is just a minor improvement to make her slightly more useful. And the next hero will be Nicholas. So this is Nicholas. He's a light legendary hero. So what they have done is to increase his damage output on his wipe. So currently his basic ability deals 100% damage. If the enemy's health is below 50% after the attack, grants bonus attack on all enemies which deals 50% damage. So currently he deals 100% and AoE of 50% damage. If this one, is it 150% damage more instead of 100%? Okay, it's just basically boosting up his damage. Second one will be his King's Will. Death immunity will be unremovable. Okay, so it seems pretty average for a light legendary buff for Nicholas. And the third one will be his Holy Sword. Increase the damage from 100 to 120%. Okay. So mostly his damage output is increased only. And to make things more inconvenient, especially for Void Tower Hard 60, you'll not be able to use like Water Prison or Ganja's ability to remove the positive effect, or as well as who's that called? God Fairy to remove the positive effect now. Nicholas buff, I don't see it that really useful apart for just more damage. Do you guys agree with me? I was thinking that he will have more utility apart from just dealing more damage. I would rather have the ace developers to, to do something more about it rather than just more damage. Yeah, I feel that Nicholas is lacking something, but I don't know what it is. Okay, let's move on to the 5th hero, Abaddon. So this is Abaddon here. He's a legendary hero. He was massively nerfed, where he was able to increase the duration of the poison debuff, and they have already removed that away. Now let's see what they have buffed him now. So currently they buff his trait. Wait, I think it's not buff his trait, maybe to improve the skill description. So let's check his trait. It seems that the skill description, maybe they have already improved the... Maybe they have already improved the Abaddon skill description for his trait, where all the attacks will reduce his skill cooldowns by 1 turn per different negative effect on the target. Attacks deals 10% damage per different negative effect on the target. If this one was just a skill description change, probably it's okay. However, if this is a nerf where when he's paired with a hero such as like Scarlet, who is able to apply multiple stacks of bleeding, or Bachelet, who is able to apply multiple stacks of ignite, or maybe Sentis or Ngangelo, who is able to apply multiple stacks of poison. If that's the case, right, means only one unique, maybe one poison stack only reduces 1 skill cooldown rather than like 4 poison stacks is able to reduce his skill cooldown by 4 turns. Probably it's enough if they changed it. For his second ability, special ability Soul Suck, change to a passive skill. When attacking, if Abaddon's HP is below 100%, launch a bonus attack with this skill. Deals 120% damage to all enemies and heal Abaddon's health. The healing increases based on the number of negative effects on the target have. Can be triggered once every 3 rounds. So these 3 rounds is basically to synergize with his cooldown, which is 3 turns here. And yeah, usually right, when Abaddon is attacking an enemy that has 4 negative effect or 5 negative effect, he'll just keep on spamming Death Knell without using his second ability Soul Suck, because he'll always prioritize the ultimate ability if it's 0 cooldown. So this makes more sense to have it on a passive ability, which is a minor buff for him, which I think is okay. So he can deal some damage, a bonus attack using this ability when his health drops below 100%, which is a good thing. Okay, that's good. So seems like only Barbarif, Lydia, Tia, and Abaddon have a minor buff, whereas for Nicholas, not so useful buff at all. Alright, and the last legendary hero we have here is another light legendary hero, Borden the Brilliant. So let's check his skills. So for his second ability, Heaven's Punishment, they added a new feature, which is upon reaching 8 rage, gains a bonus turn at the end of the round, can be triggered once per round. Wow, bonus turn. That means he can deal extra damage? Wait, this is a major buff for him, man. And second one will be his ultimate ability, Ancestral Grudge. Increase the extra true damage from 10 to 20%. Wow, that's a lot. 5% for bosses. This makes him quite useful for Void Tower Heart, especially at the mythic difficulty. You do more damage to those enemies to quickly knock them out. And probably have more... Wait, but the bosses will be the same, 5% of the boss health. Or is it a nerf? Maybe previously the bosses received 10% true damage from this skill? Because previously, if you notice here, it deals 122% damage to all enemies plus true damage equal to 10% of the target's max health. So if the boss receives 10%, now it's a nerf, because the boss will now receive 5% instead of 10% here. But for non-bosses, they receive additional 10% more, which could be a major buff and a mini nerf if you're using Brand the Brilliant for bossing. Seems that Brand the Brilliant has the best buff compared to most of the heroes here. And for Borden, it's just like a minor tweak to make his second ability slightly useful to improve his survivability. Same goes with Barbarif. Lydia would be the same as well. Tia is basically more damage as well as Nicholas. So Tia and Nicholas will be more damage. Barbarif, Lydia and Borden for more survivability. Brand the Brilliant is also more damage. So out of these 7 legendary heroes, who do you think has the best buff? Is it Brand the Brilliant? Or who else? Brand the Brilliant or Borden? Let me know down in the comments. And personally, I think Nicholas have the worst buff because it's just damage output and just changing his death immunity buff to be unremovable. Alright, so that's the end of the legendary buff. Let's move on to the epic heroes. Alright, so we are now reviewing the epic heroes buff. So let's start off with Vergil. So this is Vergil. Currently his base attack has been increased. So I'm not sure how much, but probably that is a good thing to allow him to do some extra damage. However, based from my testing, he does not deal much damage based from his skill damage output. So probably most players will just build him with high more health and defense, so that we will just rely on the Arcane Sanction to do more damage. And for his trait, Arcane Sanction, it +1 rage. When applied Arcane Sanction, increase the healing of Arcane Sanction effect from 10 to 20%. So let's check out his current implementation of his trait. Currently, if you ascend him, it increases the success rate from 20 to 40% to apply the Arcane Sanction. And it does not gain him any rage. So this means that it allows you to build up rage much more quickly whenever you apply Arcane Sanction, especially towards multiple enemies in the battlefield, so that you'll be able to gain more bonus turn to use your rage rate or your Arcane Surge here, which is a minor buff. Then the next thing is they also increase the healing of the Arcane Sanction. So currently it restores 10% of Vergil's max health, while the enemies that has this Arcane Sanction debuff will receive 20% max health as damage. So I would really love that they will improve the success rate of applying Arcane Sanction rather than just +1 rage, to make him much more usable for speed farming dungeons, especially for the Arcane Dominator dungeons. For the S2 Arcane Surge, they changed it from an AoE attack to a single target, which makes it useful for bossing, but not for AoE clearance, especially if you are relying on Vergil to deal some damage to multiple enemy heroes, so that your finisher such as Zlux can perform the finishing kill. So that might be a problem if you are relying Vergil on that. But does it still retain the condition where it deals 100% bonus damage if the target is affected by silence? Interesting. So basically they just improve his damage output for his special ability, but change it into a single target attack, and also allows him to gain some rage through his Arcane Sanction and improve his healing. Alright, so that's Vergil's update. It's just like a mini buff only. Nothing so special that improve his ability to speed farm dungeons. The next hero on the list will be Myla. She's one of the crowd control heroes that players use to freeze enemies. However, the chance of applying frozen is kind of low, which makes her not so reliable compared to like the light hero Luna Melissa. So what they did to her trait, the Frost Rune, is for each negative effect the target has, the chance to apply the frozen increased by 10, 15 and 25%. Does that mean the cumulative negative effect is increased to 50%? Let's say 10% for one negative effect plus another 15% for the second negative effect and plus another 25% for the third negative effect. Is that the case? Okay, let's read out her current one. Frost Rune attacks have a 30 to 50% chance to apply frozen. Okay. Plus 10 to 50%. So this is basically her ascension from 10 to 15% per negative effect on the target. So I'm not sure whether this one is based on the number of negative effect. Is it accumulative? If means right, if the enemies have 3 negative effect, that means 50 plus 50. When she's fully ascended, that will be 100%. If that's the case, right, it makes her much more usable, but it's pretty difficult right now to apply freeze unless you pair Myla with another hero who is able to apply AoE negative effect. Currently in the game, I think there's no heroes that apply AoE negative effect. I wonder if the heroes below here will apply AoE negative effect. Otherwise, right, I don't think she will be useful there because she needs to rely on another hero to be paired with her. Maybe like Okubi, but Okubi does not help her. It doesn't really help the team to do much more damage to the enemy because Okubi is like primarily focused on applying negative effect, and Myla is there to freeze them. Yeah, it's a bit hard unless you have an attacker hero who is able to apply AoE negative effect or attacker debuffer to pair with Myla here. So that once the enemies has 3 negative effect, then she'll be able to 100% freeze the enemies. Probably maybe to include what's that called? Yeah, maybe we can include Tia because now her AoE debuff is unremovable, so then you need to just focus on two debuff, which is maybe like Sundering Purgatory for the defense down, and you need one more, maybe like poison, AoE poison or AoE. Currently there's no AoE bleeding. Yeah, there's no AoE bleeding, but I think there is AoE ignite from Asrina, but it's not truly AoE because it randomly applies and has a success rate to apply those ignite. So we'll need to see if there's any other heroes that will apply these AoE negative effects to allow Myla to fully unleash Myla's Frost Rune trait here to freeze enemies. And they also boost up Myla's skill 1, skill 2 and skill 3 damage for the Runic Strike, Talismanic Riposte and Berserk Smash. Oh yeah, once she ascended, she also gains an Ice Shield for 2 turns on each wave. Ice Shield, when health is at 50%, the characters of max health, the shield will apply speed down on the enemy. Wait, oh, so when the attacker tries to attack Myla when her health is 50% and below, you apply this speed down. I would rather have this as attack down or something to reduce the enemy's damage output rather than speed down, because it's not so useful. Attack down will be better since she's already low on health. We need something to, you know, to reduce the damage output. Yeah, probably that would be better. Because usually if you're building a debuffer hero such as like Myla, you will always want to have more speed than the enemy. So speed down is not an issue there. Most probably you want to decrease the damage, maybe like damage down or attack down or something like that. Okay, let's move on to the third epic hero, Borden. So they have improved his trait to reduce the cooldown from can be triggered once per 3 rounds to 2 per 2 rounds after ascension. Oh, okay, so basically it reduces to allow it to proc more frequent, okay. So basically it's increasing his damage output in the long run. Then for his skill 1 and skill 2, ambush and smoke bomb, they just increase the damage output by 20%. Seems like this is one of the... It's not very useful buff at all for Borden, basically just improve his damage output only. So probably if you're using... If you want to finish off an enemy quickly, probably Borden is the best use case for that, especially for PvP arena. However, I don't see him useful in other areas of the game. Probably still trash with this update. His update is similar to Nicholas. Basically, you just want just increase his damage output. Okay, for the next hero is Thomas. So for Thomas, they replaced his giant crossbow trait, replaced the grand shield for 2 turns upon taking damage over 30% of max health to reduce damage taken by 30% after ascension. Yeah, I think this one would be better for him. Because right now, right, he could not survive the Roaring Topa attack unless you build him with high amount of health. And once he has sufficient health to tank, then only then he'll gain this shield. So reduce damage taken by 30% will make more sense to protect him because he's pretty squishy as he has a C rating for health and B rating for defense. But this one is a minor buff. Alright, the next hero will be Mogna. They revoke his trait again. This character has a 60% chance to use the ability twice, which means this also includes his ultimate ability. And what's that? Yeah, I think ultimate and basic. So he has a chance to use his brutal thrust 2 times or his mox rage 2 times. And has a 30% chance to use the ability 3 times. Wow. But rather than giving him bonus turn, basically they just allows him to use the ability 2 to 3 times. Okay, that's better. And for his Poem of Mog, bonus turn effect can be triggered once per round. Yeah, currently there's a bug with Mogna where his bonus turn, right, can be applied multiple turns because when he receives like a damage from poison, he gains like 1 turn, then produce the shield again, then gains another bonus turn, like crazy a lot. So with this limitation in place, it will not make him so overpowered. Yeah, I think this one will be good. Probably his passive skill is a problem right now, which is unbalanced. Oh yeah, another thing is after he is ascended, he'll get at the end of any turn, if this character's health is below 50%, then grant speed up by 1 turn. Can be triggered once each round. So he have more speed to go first in the battle. Okay. So I think it's better than this one. Yeah. So basically it allows him to trigger 2 times or 3 times. Which means you can build Mogna as more of a damage dealer, so you can attack the enemies multiple times, which is quite good. So I think Mogna buff is a major buff here for him. Okay, the next fire hero is Prozac. Basically his skill 1 skill, Axial Combo, now deals extra damage from 80 to 120%. He doesn't deal much damage as an epic hero. I've already tested him there. Basically he's more used for a defensive hero to tank the damage instead. Okay, so they increase his damage output, and also his Battle Cry has a 70% chance to apply taunt on all enemies for 1 turn. So after he taunt the enemies, he also grant some shield equal to 30% of his max health to tank the damage, which is quite a good buff. So for Prozac, it's just a mini buff for him to make him much more survivable. And the next fire hero will be hardback. His trait reactor grants +3 rage at the end of the turn. Wow. Wait, what's the difference? It's the same as the current implementation. Once he's ascended, grants this character 1 stack of ability immune at the start of the battle. Oh. I think based on his stats, right, he has a C rating of health and C rating for defense, which makes him pretty squishy, and having this ability immune will be useful for him. But this one, it mentions only at the start of the battle, not at the end. It's not at the start of each round. So still, this makes him not that useful. This one is like very mini buff. Oh, I think before ascension it's already +3. So based on this, so once he is ascended, only then he gains his ability immune. So, which means, right, by changing the +2 to +3, now is all the way 3 at the start. So he can deal much more damage without ascension at all. Okay. But the cool part is that's basically that. And for his ultimate ability, Charge Cannon, added effect. This is Charge Cannon, right? Added effect if the target has a shield, increased damage by 50%. So perhaps, right, if you're maybe this is to make him much more viable for the Roaring Tupa, especially for Hell Mode Stage 1 and Hell Mode Stage 2, where he generates a shield on himself. However, for Roaring Tupa Stage 1 to 12, the Roaring Tupa doesn't have shield anymore. So most probably it's the new meta for Roaring Tupa Hell Mode 1 and Hell Mode 2. Probably that's the case. Or against any shield heroes like Bran, Bulin. Bulin also generates a shield on herself. So probably it's useful to take her down. Probably those 2 areas that I see is useful for hardback to use. But other than that, I don't see him useful any areas left. Alright, so the next hero will be Silent. Basically, they buff her trait Sand Spirit Protector, where when Silent has 3 or more. Right, so they buff up Silent's trait, which is the Sand Spirit Protector. If Silent has more than 3 positive effects when the enemy attacks, grants reduced damage taken to all team members for 1 turn. So basically, if you need, in order to benefit from this reduced damage taken, you need to pair Silent with a hero that can apply multiple buffs, such as like Bran. Bran is able to apply an AoE shield, attack up buff, defense up buff, and then you need another hero that applies an AoE buff. Maybe perhaps Tashir, the new legendary hero, who is capable of applying the the speed up buff, which has this unique golden frame around it. I'm not sure whether unique buff such as that is also applicable as a positive effect. Or else you can also pair with a Blackhorn, because Blackhorn is also capable of applying an AoE continuous heal buff, which allows you to build a strong defensive team with a Silent, Blackhorn as well as Bran. Oh yeah, you can also include Hackrin, because Hackrin has this buff that applies increased max health up. So probably you can pair Silent with Bran as well as Hackrin in order to maximize the positive effects, so that Silent can apply this reduced damage taken. So you'll be able to build a defensive team without Mutasia as well, in case you do not have her. So this is one of the ways where you can optimize Silent's trait. So currently Silent's trait, when any team member taking damage, it provides a 35% chance of said damage to be ineffective. So basically it ignores or cancels out that damage, which is not that useful because it's not a 100% success rate to make it viable, especially for arena where you want things to be certain. So having this along with this existing trait will make it more useful. However, this also means that it'll be much more a nuisance if you're going against her. Right, so the next hero will be a wood element hero, Vance. So they have revamped his skills completely. So his trait Sim Breaker, as you can see here, it currently it ignores all of the enemy's positive effect, and once it's ascended, the damage increased by 30%. So now they change it to when a non-boss enemy gets a positive effect plus 1 rage. So now they implement a rage mechanic to Vance. Immediately grants Vance a bonus turn when having 5 rage. Okay, ascended attacks ignore all enemies' positive effects. Wow. So they're making a regular trait become a requirement for ascension. So basically he does not deals 30% more damage, instead he gains a bonus turn, which means he'll do more damage but not instant, because you need to wait for him to gain 5 rage first. And based from his other skills, there's no other skills that provide rage, only his trait, which means that this trait, right, is strictly limited to the enemy's team supporter heroes. So if you're fighting against supporter heroes that apply massive amount of buff, let's say 4 buff, then he'll gain 4 rage. What happens if he goes against Bren? Because Bren applies 4 an AoE shield at the start of the turn, so that is 4 buff, which means plus 4 rage at the start of the turn. Then when Bren applies another, attack up buff and defense up buff, that would means 4 plus 4 is 8, so that means 12 rage. Does it mean that he gains 2 bonus turn once Bren performs that ultimate ability? This would be quite interesting. If Vance gains 2 bonus turns, right, this makes him quite useful against supporter heroes that apply massive amount of buff, like Joseph, Bran, or Blackhorn, or Hecarim. Okay, this is quite interesting. And for his skill 1, Sign of the Cross, deals 120% damage to an enemy. If the target has 2 or more positive effect, launch a bonus attack with Inquisition. Okay. So it means that he does not apply attack down already. So which means you don't need to focus on building up focus stats on him to apply this attack down, if you're using him to apply the attack down. So okay, for his Inquisition, basically if the enemy has 2 or more positive effect, means you will deal damage with this as well as this Inquisition, 150% damage, and duplicates all of their positive effect to him. Wow, that's really powerful. When taking little damage from the enemy, restores 16% of his max health, and the restoration increases based on the number of rage, can be triggered once every 3 rounds. So basically, is this like a active and passive skill merged together? That's interesting. I'm not sure whether they change his Inquisition as a passive skill that deals damage, and Vance is unable to use this skill at all. It must be triggered through his Sign of the Cross. We will need to see how they implement these skills. And last but not least, his Demon Sword Devour deals 200% damage to an enemy. For each positive effect that the target has, increase the damage by 30%. Wait, did they just nerf him? You see, right? His current one is deals 250% damage to an enemy, but this one is deals 200% damage to an enemy. That is 50% less damage. For each positive effect the target has, increase the damage by 30%. Oh, so they change it to. So previously, right, regardless of how many positive effect the enemy has, you only plus 20%, which means a total of 270% damage. 470 plus his trait is 30, so it's around about 300% damage if the enemy has 1 positive effect. But now they nerf it and change it to this one. where if in order to get back to the 300%, right, the enemy must have at least 3 positive effect. Because 3 times 30 will be 90, that is close to 290% damage, which means that you're lacking 10% damage. Okay. So they basically nerf Van's ultimate ability, dealing less 10% damage, and the requirement is slightly more higher now. Instead of having the enemy only have 1 positive effect, now you need to depend on the enemy having 3 positive effect. And to deal extra damage, the target must have at least 4 positive effect to deal extra 20% damage more. I see. So it's like a slightly buff and nerf at the same time. Okay. So what do you think about Van's revamp? I felt that this one should be retained or further improved, because this one basically deals less damage now. Alright, so the next revamp hero will be Jonathan. His trait Sacris Custodia. When the enemy casts an ability over an area, I'm not sure whether this one affects his allies, the enemy allies, or affects the target. Grants a shield to all teammates and self equal to 10% or 20% ascended of max health for 2 turns. Wow, this is quite good, man. Let's say if the enemy have a brand that casts an AoE ability over an area to his allies, then he is able to cast the shield on himself. Or is it only ability over an area for attacking enemies, such as like applying the Sundering Purgatory, then he applies the shield? Or is it the hero skills? This one we will need to test out. If it's only applicable for attacking skills, then it will make more sense to have this. But if this applies for both like AoE healing or AoE defense up, then he also applies this shield up. That would be super, man. We need to see how this trait works. Alright, so for his basic attack Righteous Rate, deals 100% damage to an enemy and applies unhealable for 2 turns. Wow. Damage increases with the character's max health. Interesting. So currently his health is like B rating with 5000 health. So if you're building him with high amount of health, probably building him as a tanky hero, tanky defensive hero. I wonder if you build him with high health and critical rate and critical damage instead of attack. Would that allow him to deal more damage? And currently he'll be able to apply this unhealable, so you need to build him with some focus. Probably he'll be good in Queen of Tides, where the right target would heal the boss, which makes him have some utility there to protect his allies with shield and apply unhealable to the boss. And same goes to Rufflefleur, because Rufflefleur is also capable of healing himself. Second ability is Brilliance Boost. Expels all negative effects and restores 30% of the max health. Grants a bonus turn at the end of the round. So this one basically allows him to recover his health. Oh. Wait, so now he does not regenerate his health at the start of the turn, but now he generates a shield to protect him. Interesting. So this means he has less survivability right now, because he doesn't have an inbuilt revival set on him. And how about his rage mechanic? Is it removed totally? Because previously he needs +1 rage. So you can use the rage to charge up. And what's it called? What does it use rage for here? Press bonus turn. Oh, basically the rage increases the amount of damage, so they completely removed that rage mechanic on him. Okay. So So his second ability grants Brilliance boost, expel all negative effects. So basically it means that they're switching the role of his trait to his Brilliance boost. So Brilliance boost special ability now perform the healing on him instead of boosting up his attack and damage reduction. I see. So it makes him more of a supportive defensive hero rather than an attacker hero. And for his ultimate ability, Spiral Splash deals 120% damage to all enemies and applies attack down and defense down. For 2 turns, damage increases with the character's max health. Wow, is this the first hero in the game that is capable of applying AoE attack down and defense down? Currently, there's one which is William, but it's an 80% chance. This one is a 100% chance to apply attack down and defense down, which probably makes him much better than William. Wow. This is cool. This is really powerful. It's like a major buff for Jonathan. And since he's dealing damage based on his max health, similar to like, who's that called? Rogi and Corrupt Aura. Then basically I think you can just build Jonathan with high amount of health with the correct critical damage, focus and speed. Or without speed. I think Jonathan has the best buff compared to most of the epic hero here. Yeah, it seems so. Either Jonathan or Vance. Interesting. Alright, so let's move on to the next. I think we have 3 more epic heroes to cover left. So next one would be Rickard. So they have changed his trait Unshakable, reduce the cooldown of the ultimate ability by 1 turn when a teammate dies. Can be triggered once per round. Ascended, reduce the cooldown of the ultimate ability by 1 turn and grant reduced damage taken for 2 turns when a teammate dies. Can be triggered once per round. So basically this reduced damage taken, maybe it's a buff that lasts for 2 turns and can only be triggered once per round. So this one is not really useful because if you're using Rickard in your team, you wouldn't want any heroes on your team to die. Because this would reduce your overall total damage of your team considerably. But probably if you're using him for arena defense, probably there's a use case there where he can keep on spamming his ultimate ability since he has a lower cooldown rate now, which makes sense in that scenario. Okay, his basic attack Mighty Strike deals 90% damage to an enemy and has a 50% chance to apply attack down. Damage increases with the character's max health. Okay, basically it's the same. What's changed? Only increase of 10% more damage output? Yeah, only 10%. Okay. Not a significant buff for that basic attack. Wait. Ah, okay. So now it damage increases with the character's max health. So now it deals damage based on his max health, which makes more sense now. So probably he deals pretty low damage with his attack stat since his attack stat is C rating. So now they change it to based on his max health, which makes more sense now. Okay, that's good. Then for his second ability, Brutal Hammer, grants this character shield when health is below 30%. Shield strength increases with the number of negative effects on this character, grants a bonus turn at the end of the round. Wow. Can be triggered once every 3 rounds. I think this is a passive skill. They changed it to a passive skill right now. Can be triggered once every 3 rounds. So if you gear Rickard in a revival set, basically he can quickly heal up himself since he's gaining this bonus turn. Oh, which makes him quite annoying in arena defense man. If you're using him as the last person standing to survive the battle. Alright, so the next skill update would be Give Em the Hammer. Deals true damage equal to 100% of the character's max health to all enemies. So previously it was 80%, now they buffed it up to 100%, which is quite good. And the damage shares across to all enemies and cannot be dodged. Wow, this is quite good as well. Cannot be dodged now. The ability starts with a 3-turn cooldown. Which means you cannot use Ricket in a speed farming team anymore, because he has this 3-turn cooldown. Yeah, I think if you guys are using Ricket to speed farm those No Man's Land dungeon, probably now you need to replace him once this skill revamp is implemented. Because he cannot straight away instantly use his damage to deal true damage to all enemies. This is a nerf to his ultimate ability. Alright. The second last hero, which is Hassel. So Hassel is a fire hero. Trade backfire at the start of the turn. Grant speed up or speed up version 2 when ascended for 1 turn to the teammate with the highest attack. Okay, let's see his current backfire. So basically it changes from shield based on his max health to speed up buff. How is that useful? Because he's reducing his survivability. With this change, right, it makes it much more easier to defeat him in the endless trial. Next one would be his basic attack bash. Deals 110% damage to one enemy and heals Hassel and the teammate with the lowest health. Healing increases with Hassel's max health. Wow, this is good. So basically, to make up the changes on his trait, his basic attack will now heal him and the lowest health. That's good. And since the healing increases based on Hassel's max health, right, you want to stack as much health as possible. Okay, so next one would be Molten Armor. Special ability, grant attack up and crit rate up to self or teammate for 2 turns, and grants a bonus turn to for the target. I think this one is similar to Yolanda's special ability. Grants a bonus turn, which is useful if you're pairing him with an attacker hero. And currently for his Molten Armor, it heals the team members by 20%, so they change the healing to make him as a buffer, for single target buffer. And it's for ultimate ability. Fire Hands deals 120% damage to all enemies and applies defense down for 2 turns. Wow, this is another AoE defense down similar to William and... who's that called? William and Jonathan. Removes all positive effect from the main target. Oh, this is much better. So now we have like 3 AoE defense down heroes in the game. And finally we have Andre. This is Andre, the water guy. His trait Ghoul, when attacking, if the damage is more than 20% of the target's max health, launch a bonus attack with Slam. And deals 140% damage to one enemy and ignores 80% defense. If this kills an enemy, deals another bonus attack to the enemy with the lowest health. Wow. This is very interesting. So basically they replace the rage mechanic with this ability. So you need to build him with very high amount of attack and deal at least 20% or more damage to their max health. 30% of the target's max health. Then you'll be able to gain another bonus attack with Slam. I think Slam is his ultimate ability. So straight away you can use his ultimate ability to further reduce the health of the enemy hero. Which is quite a good thing. Yeah, which is quite a good thing here. Alright, his basic attack. If this kills an enemy, deals another bonus attack to the enemy with the lowest health. Wow, this is really cool. Which makes him like a killing machine, Andre. Alright, S1 Anchor deals 140% damage to an enemy, with a 50% chance to apply speed down for 2 turns. Okay. So what has changed? So his basic damage, 80% deals 140% damage now. give a chance to reduce the enemy speed. Wow, it's like 60% more damage now. Gem Splash is his special ability. It grants a shield for 2 turns when taking a negative effect. Shield strength increases with the attack of the character. At the start of the turn, removes all negative effects and restores health equal to the remaining shield HP. Can be triggered once each 2 rounds. Oh, okay. So this one allows him to have some survivability similar to like Garrow. And finally, his ultimate ability Slam deals 250% damage to an enemy and removes all positive effect. Applies no positive effect for 2 turns. So this makes him a great candidate for what's it called? Against heroes that applies massive amount of buff to protect themselves. Wow, this is one of the best update for Andre as a damage dealer. Hassle is just so just to make him viable with his AoE defense down. I think probably Jonathan, Andre, and Vance has the best update. Andre, Rickard, Jonathan, and Vance. No, I think it's only Andre, Jonathan, and Vance. Yeah, I think these 3 will have the best changes. Rickard is just average. Hassel is also average. So out of this, I think 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 plus 13, I think 20 heroes that has been revamped. Only like 5 heroes has the best buff updates. Do let me know down in the comments below what heroes you think has the best update based from these patch notes. Alright, so that's the end of this video. Hopefully you enjoy this content. If you do, please give this video a thumbs up. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.